everyone. I'm Aubrey Hruby. I'm a senior fellow at the Africa Center at the Atlantic Council, and I'm so pleased to be joined today by Terry Kier, the CEO of SA Taxi. Welcome, Terry. Thanks for calling in from Johannesburg.
Thank you, Aubrey.
So tell us, what is SA Taxi? What do you do?
SA Taxi is a financier of minibus taxis. We located in South Africa, in Johannesburg, South Africa. The minibus taxi industry on the subcontinent is the dominant form of public transport. And we've been privileged to be involved with the industry for the last 15 years. And we are one of the most prominent financiers of minibus taxis. If I had to categorize the market a little bit, just to give you some context, if you don't mind, to what we do, the minibus taxi industry is probably 250,000 vehicles deep. It's the de facto public transport network of the country. It's responsible for transporting 15 million people a day to and from work, to hospitals, to schools. And we've been a big part of that journey of the business's growth and the industry's growth over the last many years. And we've been fortunate to be able to finance about 32,000 of the kind of 250,000 taxis that exist on the roads today. And the business has evolved from being a pure financier to being an integrated business platform where we provide finance, insurance, ancillary products, stock, repair services to the industry. So we built over the last few years, in conjunction with the industry, an integrated model that supports the business model and sets the industry up for success for hopefully the next 15 years.
And why is your financing so important for entrepreneurs in the space? Why can't they just go to banks, or why is your financing so attractive and important?
It's very difficult for entrepreneurs in the taxi space to get access to finance from traditional banks. It's a cash-based economy. So the economy is defined as kind of a second economy that exists within the broader context of the South African transport infrastructure. And I guess some of that goes back to the history of the industry. You know, this is an industry that has its evolution in the darkest days of apartheid, where the spatial planning that took place many years ago put the people's residences far away from their places of work, and that gap was filled by the taxi industry. So it evolved very much into a self-regulating environment that's characterized by entrepreneurs that fell outside the normal banking system. So typically if we've got in our base 32,000 financed vehicles, 45,000 insured vehicles, and many others that participate in our value chain through our rewards program, etc. Typically, these vehicles are characterized by a single owner. So you've got, we don't have massive fleets. They're small entrepreneurs dependent on the earnings out of this business unit to fund children's education, their homes, school fees, medical costs. So I think if the banks would have accessed this market, quite frankly, there probably wouldn't have been a need for us over the last 15 years or so. But it was a market that was underserved and needed a specialist finance provider and a specialist insurance provider, someone who understood the nuances of these businesses to provide.
And the cash flows of the businesses. Exactly. I assume that you're really set up to kind of mirror the cash flows. You understand payback period, etc.
Yeah, Aubrey, that's right. I mean, if you look at our business, in each one of these taxis that operate on the roads, we've got telematics devices. It's a very data-driven business. And we effectively triangulate the kind of operator that sits in the business, the vehicle type, as well as the telematics data that we extract out of these businesses out of 10 years of extracting this data. So our loans are really a result of this triangulation and an extrapolation of the cash flows of that business. So you're lending against future cash flows, very different to the way a bank would lend, where they're lending against a vehicle. So fundamentally, there's an understanding of the business and the nuances of that business, which enable us to be successful in this market.
And do you also help optimize the routes, or you have a bird's eye view of the industry in a way? And across the world, transport, taxis, and minibus systems, or if you want to say the matatus or the bodabodas. A lot of those things across the region are kind of controlled by, you can say, groups, maybe nefarious or otherwise, and you're trying to bring some order to the industry by formalizing a lot of it. Do you help optimize and shape the entire industry?
I think we're very cognizant of our role in shaping the industry. So bear in mind, in 2018, the industry themselves acquired a 25% stake in our business. So this was the first time that you had an entire industry that, quite frankly, had been disenfranchised from the value chain for many years and had been consumers of the value chain rather than contributors to it, who actually now part and parcel of the value chain through their equity stake within SA Taxi. So we feed a lot of that data back, not just to the industry, but to government to help with spatial planning, road planning. At the same time, though, we're very cognizant of the fact that we are not involved in the structures of the industry and that they run their structures democratically, their route allocation, they work with government. We are facilitators to making sure that the businesses run well. Because the truth is, if an individual operator can't run his business successfully, we won't be successful. So everything we do is to ensure the success of the small business owner.
And so how has support from OPIC, or what's now the US DFC, helped SA Taxi grow or in this mission?
I mean, we wouldn't be in existence without support from DFIs, and particularly now DFC, who've been a friend to the organization now for many years. And the reason I say that is that if you look at the funding pool that's available to us in an emerging market and in South Africa, which has a fairly mature capital market, it's not enough to sustain the growth of the taxi industry. So we've got a variety of funding structures available. We do draw off local funders, local fund managers, banks. They're all very supportive of the SA Taxi model, but we're very reliant on the DFI community to support us, particularly DFC, who've made a real effort to understand the business and the nuances of the industry. And I say that because it's not enough just to provide financing. It's more important to understand what we're trying to achieve and the purpose and relevance of the organization. So
and how
for
did
that,
the partnership
I think it's
develop?
been a great partnership.
And how did that partnership develop over time, and how did it evolve?
I mean, it certainly evolved over time, and I think it was heightened. In fact, a great example of it is during the COVID crisis, and I mean, particularly the extreme lockdown measures that the South African government imposed on its citizens over this period. Because you had total lockdown invoked quite early, we needed the support of our funding partners to be able to not only just survive, but pass on those benefits to the taxi operator. Because without the taxi industry, I think we would have found ourselves in real trouble. These were guys that were able to transport essential workers to hospital during this period. They needed assistance. There was a lack of commuter traffic. And without the support of our DFI partners, and particularly DFC over that period, we wouldn't have been able to make it. So I think if you're asking for the embodiment of how that translates, that would be a really good practical example of that. Without the support of our partners, we wouldn't have made it. And without us making it, quite frankly, the industry wouldn't have made it. And if the taxi industry didn't survive, I think South Africa would have been in real trouble.
And how do you see growth going forward in a post-COVID world? Hopefully we'll all come out of it. I'll get to come back to see you all in person in Joburg, and the world will start traveling and moving again. How do you see the future of growth for SA Taxi?
If I look at the performance of the taxi industry, and if we kind of a benchmark for how the economy is slowly being resuscitated, we saw in April, our kilometers traveled was about 26% of what we anticipated. We're now running about 85% of kilometers traveled in terms of our expectation. Still quite muted volumes within the vehicle. So I think slowly we're starting to see the wheels of the economy kind of starting to pick up a little bit. What I guess the taxi industry's got going in its favor is other modes of transport just haven't been able to respond as quickly. And I guess that talks to the entrepreneurial nature of the taxi industry and the fragmentation and scalability of the industry. So I think post-COVID, we expect the industry to recover from about January, February, to almost be back at full capacity. And that's not because of the fact that there are more people traveling. It'll be because I think other modes of transport are just going to take longer to come back on stream. So I guess our role is to make sure that we can facilitate that recovery as seamlessly as possible and to help people get back on their feet. So I'm quite encouraged. I think as tough as it's been, I think that the taxi industry has responded maturely and responsibly.
And it seems like your firm over time is also growing in your product offering. So I assume that that trend will continue.
That trend will continue. I think that, you know, as we become much more integrated into the taxi economy, you know, this kind of sub-economy, our ability to provide product that's catered for the needs of our clients will continue to grow. So whether it be insurance product, whether it be warranty product that supports the vehicle, our ability to put pre-owned vehicles at a much cheaper cost into the marketplace with comfort around the warranty program that sits behind it, whether it be transactional banking accounts that we're looking at. I think that for us, the scope is as broad as, quite frankly, we want it to be, you know. So I'm very excited actually about the next couple of years that we're heading into.
That's fantastic. Terry, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us about the SA Taxi story. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.